Recognizing a trans person as their gender is not a privilege, okay? That's not something a trans person should have to earn. That's just a right that they need to have.
If you support the police force or ICE in any way, shape, or form, I'm judging you.
All right, guys, welcome to this bonus episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, where I will be reacting to insane LGBT TikToks from the perspective of a normal gay guy who hasn't quite lost his mind just yet. Up first, there's an interesting entry in a new category of Delulu TikTok discourse where people are discussing whether it is okay to misgender problematic and unpopular trans creators like Lily Tino. Personally, I think that's fine, and I'll explain why, but first let's watch a video where a user explains why you must use trans people's pronouns always, even if they're creeps and probably posers and probably not even trans. Let's take a listen to that.
If you misgender a trans person just because they are a bad person, that makes you a bad person because it shows that your respect for trans people is conditional. Like, would you start saying racist things about a person of color just because they're a bad person? I would hope not. Recognizing a trans person as their gender is not a privilege. Okay, that's not something a trans person should have to earn. That's just a right that they need to have. Trans people have a right to be recognized as their gender, whether or not they are a good person. When you intentionally and maliciously misgender a trans person, that hurts the entire trans community. That is not allyship. Because you normalize the idea that transphobia is fine depending on the circumstances. And the people that are always going to be the most affected by this issue, whether or not they are a good person, is always the people that don't pass to your standards. You can just say that a trans person is a terrible person and you hate this person without being transphobic towards them. It's not that difficult.
I mean, it's not that difficult, but it's also not something we can or should have to do. Like, I just totally disagree with basically all of this. So again, this comes in the context of Lily Tino, who's a popular trans creator on TikTok, who is in hot water right now because Lily went into women's bathrooms at Disney and took photos with women and girls in the background without their consent. That's creepy. That's predatory. It's potentially illegal or violation of the rules of Disney. And to say that, like, oh, no, but you still have to use Lily's pronouns, you really don't. Like, I disagree with this idea that trans people have a right to be referred to as their preferred gender pronouns. You actually don't have a right to someone else's speech. You have a right to call yourself whatever you want. You have a right to live your life, but you don't have the right to control the speech of others. No one has that right, actually. And I don't really accept this comparison to race, because I agree that it wouldn't be good or really defensible to be racist to a racial minority just because they were a criminal or a terrible person. It still wouldn't be okay to, like, call them racial slurs or whatever. And I don't really think anybody should be calling Lily Tino slurs either, but simply calling Lily a man or he, one, that's not really the same thing as calling someone a slur, because you're just stating that they're a man, and being a man is not a insult. Like, it's just a low-key a fact. And that's the other piece of this, is like, they actually are black. The hypothetical criminal actually are black. A trans person is a person who is asking others to refer to them as the sex that they aren't actually. So, like, someone who is a trans woman is somebody who is a man, technically a biological male, who wants to, for whatever reason, walk the world and live as a woman. And people, in many cases, even myself, are willing to accommodate that, but not for, like, creeps and pervs. Like, why would we accommodate them or go out of our way to, like, make them feel nice or good? Why would we do that? I mean, the logic of this person in this video would potentially extend to some of the insane things we've seen, like where women victims of sexual abuse are expected to, or even in some cases required to, affirm the pronouns of their male abuser as a woman. No, they don't have to do that. They shouldn't have to do that. And if your arguments suggest otherwise, then there's clearly a problem with those arguments. Because what the guy is saying in this video very clearly would extend to a trans perpetrator commits a crime against a woman, a male trans perpetrator, and then that woman is expected to still use she, her pronouns for this person. That's ridiculous. So I'm not buying this logic, but you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, guys, up next, we've got a cringeworthy attempted dunk on the discourse over trans athletes in women's sports. Let's take a look at that.
If you can't name more than 5 WNBA players off the top of your head, or I'll even say if you can't name more than 5 athletes in women's sports in general off the top of your head, then you don't get to have an opinion on trans people in sports. Who said that? Just kidding, it was me, Coach Jackie. I said that. Should I say it again to your face?
She really thought she ate. She really thought she cooked. She really thought she did her big one. This just doesn't hit the way that she thinks it hits, at least not if you have 2 brain cells to rub together, because babe, one does not need to be an expert in women's sports to know that allowing biological males to compete in them is unfair and unsafe. One only needs to be familiar with basic biology and common sense. And I don't really accept this idea that I have to be an intimate fan of the WNBA to say that males shouldn't be allowed to compete in it. Like, I can not personally be particularly interested or invested in a topic or a subject, but still care about it for others because I want what's best for them. Like, I have no meaningful interest or connection to women's collegiate swimming. I don't care about swimming. I don't tune in. I'm not a fan. But at the same time, I do care about like young women having opportunities in general and collegiate sports being something that offers them scholarships and opportunities. And I care about women's safety and comfort in general. So like I can look at the Leah Thomas situation and say that's wrong without having to be a diehard fan of women's swimming. Like, the math here is not mathing. People have opinions about stuff all the time that they're not directly involved in and they're not experts in. And it's interesting to me how often you hear this kind of thing where they either try to say, well, there are no trans athletes. It's like 10 people. And so who cares? Or you don't actually care about the subject, so stop talking about it. None of these are actual arguments defending the underlying position because there aren't really any good ones. So they do this kind of thing instead. I'm not really buying that. I kind of see through it, but what do y'all think? Up next, we've got another TikToker scolding us for patronizing corporations, using AI, or basically everything else under the sun.
If you still go to Starbucks, I'm judging you. If you still go to Target, I'm judging you. You still watch the Kardashians? I'm judging you. There is way better trash TV out there. If you use AI for things that you could simply Google, I'm judging you. In fact, even if you just think AI is kind of cool, I'm judging you. If you have plans to celebrate the 4th of July, I'm judging you. If you have an American flag on any of your clothes or your house or your car or anything, I'm judging you. Unless the American flag is upside down, then you're cool. If you support the police force or ICE in any way, shape, or form, I'm judging you. If you drive a Tesla and you don't have that little sticker on the back that says, I bought this before Elon was a piece of shit and now I can't afford a new one, I'm judging you. If you allow your friends or family or significant other to be racist around you in any way, I'm judging you. If you, in any shape or form, support what Israel is doing, even if you're neutral to what Israel is doing, it's more than judgment at this point.
Oh no, guys. We lost her support. I don't know. That's going to keep me up at night. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and be like, no, don't judge me. No. Babe, no one cares. Crazies on TikTok like you can judge us all you want. There is no, like most of this is nonsense. There's a few things in there that sort of make sense, but why wouldn't I go to Starbucks? If you're going to say something Israel, that's not real. I've debunked that. Starbucks has no meaningful connection to Israel. If you're going to say, union busting, whatever, don't care, based, I would probably do the same if I ran a business. Same with Target. You're mad at them. Why? Because they rolled back DEI initiatives? Yeah, great. That's actually good. They still don't discriminate against anyone. They still hire people and suppliers from all races. They just don't do the tokenizing, reverse discrimination, DEI stuff. I covered that. There's no reason to boycott them whatsoever. On the AI thing, look, I also think there are legitimate ethical and philosophical and economic concerns about artificial intelligence, but it's the future whether you like it or not. So like that is the way the world is going. So it's one of those things where I do think people should use it because you're going to have to. Like other people will just use it and you'll just get left behind. That's all that will happen. If you could Google it, well, guess what happens when you Google something? AI summary pops up at the top. Like it's really not avoidable. So you're just going to be judging everyone except like 5 people at some point in the very near future, because AI is the future, whether pink-haired girls on TikTok like it or not. The most diabolical of this whole list to me is I'm judging you if you support the police force or ICE in any way. You don't? Not in any way. Like I understand if you think ICE has gone too far and you don't support mass deportations, but what she's saying would imply that it's like bad or you're evil if you think ICE should deport violent criminals, rapists, murderers. Actually, that's good. And everyone with 2 ounces of common sense left in their brain can see that. Same with the police force. I'm open to conversations about criminal justice reform, police reform, some things the police do that are wrong, some systemic issues with policing in America, but we do need police. Like you're saying we're problematic and you're going to judge us if we think the police should arrest rapists and murderers. Okay, then I would like you to judge me because I'm not going to not support that. That's insane. That's deranged. And you would probably feel, I don't want this for you. I don't want this for anyone. But you would probably feel differently if you were victimized. Something tells me. And I'm sorry, but the whole thing about like, I'm judging you if you support 4th of July in any way. If you have any American flag, you need to touch grass. You are out of touch with America. Most people still like this country, even if we have our problems, even if we're chaotic, even if there's a lot of crazy things going on, even if you hate our president, even if you hate our politicians, most people still like our country, and you're not going to make us feel like bad people for it because we don't care. That's the thing that had me gagged about this video. Like she really thinks we're just sitting on the edge of our seats waiting for her approval. No one cares. That said, maybe they feel that way because they're like that. Like their sense of self is so externally located that if someone doesn't use the right pronoun for them, they'll like melt into a puddle or something. But normal people out here in these streets don't particularly care if some girl on TikTok disapproves of them because they believe in the existence of police. I swear, sometimes when I'm in these online spaces and discourses, I feel like everyone involved is just so detached from reality, including me. All right, guys. Next, we're going to hear from somebody who thinks that people need to just get on board with using the word cisgender, which refers to non-transgender people, but a lot of people don't like it, who don't really accept the kind of woke nomenclature of it all. Let's take a listen to this video.
The reason why the word biological doesn't work as a replacement for the word cisgender is fairly simple, because sometimes you're not talking about trans men, you're not talking about trans women, you're talking about trans people, a broader group, the trans community. What's the alternative to that? The biological community, biological people? Are trans people not biological people? Is that not incredibly dehumanizing? Just use the word cis. It's not going to hurt you.
So I'm sorry, but it is so funny to me that the people are like, use my pronouns or else, or also like, get over it. If you don't like cis, suck it up. You have to be called cis. Like, shouldn't that be a 2-way street? You want people to use your pronouns. You shouldn't call them cisgender if they don't like being called cisgender. Now, the reason I object to it is different. I don't really care about all the stuff that she just popped off about. I think the problem that I have with the word cisgender, to answer her question, I would just say non-transgender. We're talking about the transgender population, or I would just say the non-transgender population. Cisgender doesn't need to be a concept. The problem I have with it is the definition is rooted in a bunch of like ideological terms that I don't really accept. So central to the definition of cisgender that comes up when you Google it, right, is simply denoting or relating to a person whose gender identity corresponds with the sex registered for them at birth, not transgender. So the problem with that is a lot of us don't recognize or accept the idea of gender identity as like a legitimate concept and don't really accept the idea that sex is registered or assigned. Rather, we think it's an innate fact of biology. So the reason I don't want to use the word cis or be called cis is because I like disagree with it at a very fundamental level, not because I just hurts my feelings or whatever. But again, it's just so funny to me, like what happened to respect people's word choice? Like I'm in the position where if people call me cis, okay, I don't really care. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to call myself that. I'm not going to use that term because I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to melt into a puddle over it, like the pronoun crowd. Up next, this can only be put into the category of what I would call woke racism, right? Seriously, like some of the most virulently racist people on the internet who think it's okay that they're openly racist just because they rail against white people. Here is one woman saying that only black women have the right to complain about the Trump administration because they understood the assignment. Let's take a listen to this.
The only people who have a right to complain about this current administration is black people, more specifically black women, because we were the only demographic who understood the assignment, 92%. Who said that?
So the crazy thing about this video was actually not the video itself. It was actually the caption. Let me read that to you. If you're not a part of the 92%, just hush and enjoy what you or people who look like you voted for. Much love to the 80% of black men as well. I want to emphasize one piece of that. Or people who look like you. This is insane levels of racist collectivism. The idea that if you're a white person who voted for Kamala Harris, doesn't like Trump, and then he's doing things you disagree with, you can't complain because your kind voted for him, is so totalizing, is so collectivizing, is so dehumanizing, so profoundly strips people of their individuality that it genuinely sounds like the woke KKK. I do not ever want to look at the world in this kind of a racial lens where people are just members of some amorphous group and responsible for the sins of people that look like them. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. That is wild. That is racist. And it is like very unfair to individuals to hold them responsible or accountable or deem their worth or ability to speak on things based on the actions of others who just look like them. I don't know how someone ever could type that out, read it back, and be like, yeah, I ate with that. No, babe. You sound deranged and racist. Staying on this trend, y'all, we've got a TikToker here to explain the covert racism that white people engage in by saying completely uncontroversial, non-racist things. Yes, let's take a listen.
Hi, my name's Kylie, and here are the top 5 phrases that white people use to indicate they are a closeted racist. I was raised around a lot of racist white people, and so these are the phrases that people would use in public, and then in private, they would be incredibly racist. Number 1, I'm not racist, I treat everybody the same. And although they treat everyone the same, they are the people who often spew the most racist and hateful stereotypes in private. Number 2, I just care about the economy. No, you only care about preventing black, brown, queer, or disabled people from accessing healthcare, and then you go home to your white family and your white kids, and you start saying slurs and convincing your kids why they shouldn't marry a person of color. Number 3, I don't like identity politics. Oh, you mean when it's not about you? Because whiteness is already centered in every other aspect, so the one time it's not, you get mad. Number 4, why does everything have to be about race? Because everything is about race. Because quite literally anything that you can think of in America is rooted in race. Tipping culture, the naming of streets, gentrification. And number 5, I just think people should follow the law. You mean the law that is inherently racist and that criminalizes blackness or that has banned indigenous practices and celebrations. Right.
I must have just missed the part of the law that criminalizes blackness. Seriously, this is so funny to me. I mean, it's not funny. It's actually sick and insane. But on another level, it's funny because it's just kind of like a Kafkaesque trap where if you say racist things, you're racist, obviously, and that's bad. Don't say racist things. But then if you say non-racist things, you're also racist and bad, and you're just covert about your racism. So in this kind of thinking, I'm really not sure there's anything a white person can say where they're not going to declare you racist. I mean, literally, let's look at some of these. If you say, I'm not racist, I treat everybody the same, that's proof you're racist. I don't, how do we get out of that? If you say you're racist, if you say you discriminate against people, you're racist. If you say you're not racist, and you say you don't discriminate against people, you're also racist. Like, what? She probably, by the way, guys, this is just a random guess. She probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a degree in some like blank studies field where they taught her all this wisdom. That's my wild guess. And wow, if you claim you care about the economy, she translates that to you don't want disabled people to have health care. The levels of bad faith straw manning there are astronomical. Really, like, you can't concede that anyone might genuinely have been bothered by the economy, by inflation, have thought that Trump could do better. No, they must just want queer people to not have health insurance. Like, I don't know how to reach somebody who's this far gone, who has this little room for nuance or faith in the other side at all. It's actually kind of scary. And what's funny to me about the claim that if you say, I don't like identity politics, you're racist, is that most black people in America don't like identity politics. Most minorities of different races don't like identity politics. Identity politics is primarily popular among woke white people, if you actually look at the polling. But I'm sure that our nice white savior here would just explain to all those black people that they actually hate themselves and are just like internalized bigots and need to be educated by saviors like her. This stuff is exhausting. Imagine being friends with this person. I'm sure she is just a delightful hang. What do you guys think? Which one of these crazy videos was your favorite? Do let me know in the comments. Do hit that like button before you go. And that'll be it for this bonus episode of the Bread vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you all so much, and we'll talk again real soon.